You're listening to Do That Well with your hosts, Brenda Brown and Karen Thrall, a podcast about real experiences and how to turn them into life lessons. Unscripted, honest, funny, genuine, and passionate. A series of conversations where we explore every aspect of human interaction and provoke each other to do life well. And today, we are going to have a truly unscripted episode. We never script our episodes, but there is typically a fair amount of prep work. We have
Right.
conversations ahead of time. We have an idea of where we want our episode to go. But today, Karen's being a really good sport because I cooked up an idea earlier and decided that we needed to record it.
Right. Right.
So this is as unscripted as it gets.
So good. And this is so good for me too, because I actually want to get myself more comfortable where I'm not really knowing what is going to be, we're going to talk about. I may know what we're going to talk about, but I don't know how it's going to go. And so I'm really enjoying this too, because I want to be stretched. So this is good. Here we go.
This will be fun for us in some way.
Yes.
Um, for those of you that listen to our podcast, last year in 2021, we did an episode where we talked about different Black individuals in American history who have been an influence to us, or that perhaps we thought not everybody would know about, and we wanted to share their story. And we did that in honor of Black History Month. And this year, we wanted to do something similar. But we wanted to see if there was a way we could expand it into a full month. So we're actually doing an episode for every week in February. It's great, right? But
Yeah.
I today was thinking to myself, well, who am I, this person that is not a Black person, that has this platform in this podcast and is going to have these conversations, but who am I to be putting this out into the world when I don't actually even know myself the origins of Black History Month, who started it, you know, how people feel about it, the people that support it, the people that don't support it. And I wanted to take a moment to educate ourselves a little bit more just on what Black History Month is, where it originated, and why I personally think it's important that we have these conversations and we keep learning when it comes to
Mhm.
Black history. So, to kick us off, if you will all
Okay.
indulge me, my history factoids that I love, there's going to be quite a few of them coming at you because I'm going to talk for just a moment about the origins of Black History Month. Hopefully, this will be news to a good majority of you, or hopefully not. I don't know. Hopefully, you already know this. So, Black History Month. The story of it begins all the way in 1915, and this is a half a century after the 13th Amendment had abolished slavery. There are two key players. There is Carter G. Woodson, who was a Harvard-trained historian, and there's Jesse E. Moreland, who was a very prominent minister. And they got together and founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. Now, this organization still exists today. However, it is now known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. But it's all the way back in 1915. Now, if we fast forward a bit, in 1926, this organization sponsored a Negro History Week. And they chose to put it in the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. This caught on, and the event inspired different schools, different communities nationwide to organize local celebrations, and establish history clubs, host performances, lectures, etc., all around Negro History Week. So this continued on. People continued to adopt this celebration of Black history. And in the 1960s, it started to really gain a lot of momentum because now we're looking at the time where the civil rights movement was happening. There was a growing awareness of the Black identity within American culture. And all of a sudden, what had started back in 1926 as Negro History Week then evolved in the 60s into Black History Month on several college campuses. And we fast forward again to 1976. Now it's being a yearly thing. A lot of college campuses are celebrating Black History Month. So Gerald Ford, who was the president at the time in 1976, officially recognized Black History Month as a federal, not holiday, but as a a federally recognized month of awareness. And Gerald Ford said, quote, to the public, to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. Um, I just think that's a really great sentiment. So I'm
Yeah,
just going
that's
to
really
sit with that
cool.
for just a second.
Yeah, yeah.
So in 1976, this is when it then officially became something. It's this federally, nationally recognized Black History Month. And something that I didn't realize is that when this started in 1976, every American president every February designates a theme for Black History Month. So that was news to me. And 2022, of course, has a theme, which this year it is the Black Health and Wellness. According to the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, who you'll remember this was established back in 1915. They have to say about 2022's theme of Black health and wellness. It, quote, explores the legacy of not only Black scholars and medical practitioners in Western medicine, but also other ways of knowing, e.g., birth workers, doulas, midwives, naturopaths, herbalists, etc., throughout the African diaspora. The 2022 theme considers activities, rituals, and initiatives that Black communities have done to be well. So we'll just take a pause because I just spewed a lot of information all out at you all. But Karen, I'm just curious to hear right off the bat if any of this was news to you, if you already knew a lot of it, what your general thoughts are so far.
Okay, well, I for sure didn't know about the themes, so that's cool. So now I'm gonna look back and just see what the other themes are. So I'm hearing you say like this year it's health and wellness,
Hmm.
so that's cool. The other thing I did know February because of Abraham Lincoln's birthday, so I knew that. Woodson, I knew like a broad brush understanding of why it was in February. So I knew that, but when you went into the really like the years, and I didn't know any of that. What I love is the civil rights component to it, and that just makes me happy. So that part makes me really happy because that makes sense to me. So and then which triggers the thought that what's happening is getting educated that we as a people, we of Americans of the United States create history together. We, all of us play a really important part of history. And you see it all divided up in the entire United States, and different states represent different forms of history. So people as well. So that diversity amongst people, we also are creating history together. And so it's so important for us to see both sides of the coin so we get a full understanding of our history pages.
Hmm.
So the word that really jumped out at me or that I'm thinking about, is neglecting to tell the whole history, like neglecting to tell the whole history. So now what's happening is we're all getting educated to go, hey, remember all of the history. Remember all, it makes who we are today. And I thought that
Hmm.
was really cool. I didn't know that part. So that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I honestly didn't really know any of this.
Mhm.
Um, so I was really very shocked. I don't know if shock's the right word, but it was very interesting to me to learn that the origins of Black History Month go all the way
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
1914.
I know, it's so cool. See, I didn't
Um,
know that. I didn't know the dates either. So you throwing in the dates I loved it. I loved
love,
it.
love a
Like
history
think
fact,
about, right? Like over a century long investment.
right?
And we still have ways to go.
Hmm.
But it just shows you it's a small rudder on a ship, and birthing this history of waking us up to Black history that is part of our history
Right.
is taken 100 years to just get to this point.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
what's interesting as well, right? I mean, they started. the organization back in 1915, but then it wasn't until 76
Yeah.
that then Gerald Ford actually officially recognized Black History Month. So even there you see how there was the groundwork was there, and there were all of these individuals really pushing to try to make sure that Black history was, more accessible and more well known and being taught. And it still took 60 years for then Black History Month to actually be officially recognized. So you can see how throughout our history, I mean, all of this has just taken a lot of time. What am I trying to say? I guess just that there's always more work that can be done, I
Yeah.
think, is what I'm trying to
Yes.
articulate,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you look at history and you can see that there were these strides put in place, but it still took that 60 years to actually then become more recognized. So I guess to me, that shows how even a little bit of effort, if you stick with it,
Yeah.
that it will pay off.
It's so true.
Um, but I really appreciate, Karen, that you just brought up this idea of, it is one history. Because as I was researching this and reading about Black History Month, I asked my partner Victor for another opinion on what he thought about, uh, you know, presenting this as a topic, as an episode for our podcast. And for those of you that have never seen Victor or don't know him personally, he is half Black. That does, he will be the first person to say that in no way means that he like represents a whole community of people. It's just still one person's opinion. But I did just want a different opinion, and I thought that it was nice that he does have that layered, that layer of being a person from the Black community. And he was saying how there are actually quite a few people within the Black community, and himself being one of them. There are quite a few people that actually don't necessarily, they aren't 100% on board with Black History Month. And when I asked why, it seems like a lot of the reasoning behind it, and again, this is just, filtered through one person's opinion, but it seems like some of the idea is that, well, be, it should just be one history. Like, it is all our history, and the Black history is a part of that history. And so, why is there this need to like call it out as something that's separate, um, from the rest of the history? Like, we should just be pushing more so towards this idea of having Black history just be history, right? Um, and I suppose if you're a person that doesn't think that way, and this is just my assumption, this is just my opinion, that the idea would be, well, because it's not there yet. And so it is this, there is this effort to make sure that we are creating a month where people are raising the awareness about it. And, I do tend to agree with what I've read out there that it's not enough, though, and that we do need to use this as a catalyst to have these conversations and to educate ourselves throughout the entire year. Like, it shouldn't be something that only happens in one month.
Okay. Okay. So what I like about what Victor's saying is he has a vision. He's already ahead of us with the vision, because the vision, he's right. That is what's going to happen. That is going to happen. And he's ahead of the game. Like, he's already there, which is so cool. And
Mhm.
sometimes you have to, so yeah, of course I agree. Like, that is logical. Like, that doesn't make any sense why it wouldn't be like that. It's going to be in the books, and it's just what happened. This is what happened in our American history, and it goes woven into every chapter. So that integration, 100% in every school and every household where we're talking about our history collectively. Yes. And in the meantime, we have to keep educating and educating me. I have to still keep getting educated, and because the vision is going to happen. it's going to happen. And so this is, to me, is pulling everybody in that direction. And then our generations, and then our kids, and that it's so natural. So in a couple of more generations, it's going to be so natural. But I love his impatience. I love his
Right.
impatience with it, because that doesn't make any sense to me. Because why are you doing this every day? No, not 1 month. And I did read where, and I'm so sorry because I wasn't ready for this, but I did read where someone was talking about that it should be every day. It's 365, and they were frustrated that it's not. It's only 30 days or 28 days, and then everyone carries on. So but that's the
Right.
rudder. That's the ship being moved. So I want people that think like Victor to stay thinking that way, because we're catching up with them. That's kind of but I right now, the educate gate moving us all together to where our history pages are one is it's we it's a yes. And it's and I guess the sad part is, like, how come it never was there all the time?
Right.
That's the sad part. Like, how did that happen where it wasn't part of the history pages all the time?
Mm-hmm.
You know. So
Agreed. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Karen. Like I see both sides of it. I see why somebody would have their hesitations with Black History Month, and I also see why it's important. So,
like, it's
I,
almost like it's limiting, like, to only have Black History Month is a very confining, limiting thing. And isn't that the whole point? Is we no longer confine us, and here's your little piece of history. You can have February. Yeah,
exactly.
that's where the civil rights movie, like, no, no, that's not how it works. It's not, so I can see where that doesn't make sense. And I do. And you think what you said, it's been 100 years, over 100 years, that we've been doing Black history in February. That's a long time.
Right.
So maybe Victor's saying, "Speed it up, folks," and maybe that's the next thing is we need to. When do we go? Okay, it's not. It's just in all the history books. I think we have still a lot of uneducated people that have grown out of school, so they wouldn't have that opportunity to learn all this. So we have
Mhm.
to kind of um, continue to raise our level of education.
Right. Well, and I think that's the thing as well, as I was saying earlier. Like, I didn't even know a lot of this stuff. So that to me, I
Yeah.
think proves both sides of that coin. It a proves, like, yes, it shouldn't just be this 1 month, because clearly that isn't enough. And then it also shows me, like, well, at the same time, it is nice that it's being honored, because that is prompting me to look at myself and think to myself, okay, where does my education begin and end? Where does my knowledge begin and end? Like, what am I doing right? What am I not doing right? How can I better be an ally? How can I take steps to continue to educate myself throughout the year with every conversation that I have, and so that it's not something that is only happening in 1 month of the year. Um, so I think that there are a lot of good points that are raised when you think about why some people might not actually be in favor of it. Um,
Hmm.
Definitely.
Hmm.
So, we're, like, already almost at the end of our episode. We have less than 10 minutes. This is a heavy topic. Um, but with that being said, on that note, briefly just want to talk about, so what Karen and I will be doing this month on our podcast. So, in addition to today's conversation, we are going to do something similar to what we did last year, where we're going to be uh, doing episodes on different Black individuals within history that we think are influential or special in some way, that we are gaining knowledge and education on, that we want to share with you, our audience, in the hopes that you will also learn some new things about some people in our history that you might have not known before. And I also think that throughout these conversations, you're probably going to hear some discovery. I mean, you're gonna hear Karen and I discovering new things about ourselves, about what we don't know, about what we would wanna know, and we'll probably also talk a bit about different steps that we will either be taking as individuals or as a podcast, or different things that we would encourage you, our listeners, to do as well, so that we can all continue our education, on Black history throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
With
Like I already know the person I want to talk about, but you'll have to stay tuned and we'll announce it when it gets here. But I do have somebody I really want to talk about because I think they're pretty cool. So there's my little hook.
Now, before we completely check out for today, before we close our episode, there is one other aspect of this Black History Month conversation that I wanted to bring to the table because I find it to be particularly interesting. Um, as I mentioned earlier, I personally see a lot during this month, people like companies, they'll use it. So it'll be something that's marketed like it's Black History Month and here's how we're going to support this community. And sometimes it's a monetary donation, sometimes it's something similar to what we do where they're just raising awareness. And I don't know where I'm going with this really, except for to say that I think that that particular aspect of it is probably one of the reasons why some people perhaps don't like Black History Month, because it is one of those things that still keeps it in the month versus
Mm.
throughout the year.
Mhm.
And I don't know, as somebody that works in brand spaces, it's something that I'm always really aware of. And I see people marketing, doing marketing to cater to this month. And I guess I'm just curious what your thoughts are about that,
Mm.
Karen. And
Oh, well, okay. I think everybody on board, like everybody, to for us to move this from February to 365 days a year, everybody's got to be on board, and everybody's got to play, and everybody's got to. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? So for companies to take on the initiative, I think is a good thing because it's better to do something than nothing. So that'd be my first one. It's better to do something than nothing.
mhm,
Um, Making a dollar off of it, well, I think that's maybe where maybe it gets a little tricky, but that maybe that could be a little tricky and maybe a little controversial because it helps consumers pick you because you're supporting Black History Month. That's whoa, that could be where it's tricky. I think ultimately though, regardless of the motive, we all need to be on board and we all need to move this forward and to the ultimate vision, and that we make this part of our everyday. We're,
mhm,
for example, and I think this is too watered down, so this might not be a good example. um, Valentine's Day is once a year, but I'm not to love Corey once a year. I'm not to be romantic and stop my world to tell Corey I love him. And so some people go, and I think, but it is always a reminder. I don't need that reminder. And I feel like Victor, we don't need that. We shouldn't need a reminder. At the same time, it's kind of romantic. And so having Black History Month, I see very romantically. Like
mhm.
like the fact that we're going to be highlighting some people. It's like it's just I just like it's very romantic, and that's where I get excited about it.
Yeah.
So and so I see it more that way. That I think Black History Month will turn to a very romantic thing of just it's just what we do, but yet it's going to be absolutely just completely interwoven to every day. Oh, that's yeah.
Mhm. Okay. I was just curious because I personally find that when I see different companies doing things like that, and like you said, when it starts to get into that gray area, especially where it
Yeah.
feels like they're really profiting off of it, there's a part of me that gets very like up in arms and and angry about it. But So I wanted to go outside of my own mind for a moment and get another opinion. And I do appreciate what you're saying in the sense that doing something is better than doing nothing. So, as you said, I think even if it's not always done perfectly, I like to hope that the sentiment is still there, and that, you know, it's still another voice that's pushing to this conversation that we need to uh, raise our awareness about Black history. So
Hmm.
thank
Hmm.
you for
And
giving me
good
another way
for
to look at this.
yeah, and good for you for holding us all accountable. Say, hey, you remember the motive. Like, why do you do what you do? Keep it sincere, keep it pure, keep it real, keep it in the right vision, or the right idea. So I think it's great. I think it's good for you for going, hey, I think we need to like challenge this. Why not? Yes, let's challenge it. It's yes and, so I'm glad you brought it up.
And I will say, as we close up here, I actually like your analogy. I like this analogy of, well, Valentine's Day is once a year, but it's not like we stop loving every throughout the rest of the year. Yes, it's a bit of a watered down analogy, sure, but I do think it's effective. You know, I actually do think that it gets your wheels turning about it in that way. And because I do, then I think about other holidays as well. I think about Christmas, and at Christmas, I love giving gifts, and it's something I really enjoy doing. It makes me really happy to give gifts to other people. And so then I think, like, well, that doesn't go away throughout the rest of the year. Just because Christmas is my opportunity where I get to really go all out doesn't mean I'm not still getting enjoyment from gift giving throughout the rest of the year. That's still something
Yeah,
that's important to
yeah.
me. So why would there be a different approach to Black History Month?
Yeah, and also we the way history pages are done right now, we have our esteemed heroes, and there's a lot of heroes missing. And so Black History Month's going, did you know about this hero? Did you know about this hero? Did you know about this hero? So we're learning there's all these new heroes, or heroes that we turned a blind eye to. We didn't see, we didn't let ourselves see. The system was set up so we didn't see, and now Black History Month is helping us see heroes. And what do we Americans? We're so amazing at esteeming our heroes. I mean, we that whole thing of America. We really esteem how this country was built was on sweat, blood, tears. Sacrifice, suffering, pain, and glory, and beauty, and so I feel like Black History Month is opening my eyes to be able to esteem more heroes. There's no more forgotten heroes, no
Mhm.
more unspoken heroes. So that's why I like the romantic side. But thank you for my Valentine's Day thing. Okay, good. I was like,
It worked. It
but
worked. It was effective.
it can work. Okay.
All right. Well, that does bring us to the end of our short 30 minutes today. You know, I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that this was truly unscripted and that it might get a little messy. So I appreciate all of you for sticking through to the end with us. I will just say again that we're not perfect. We're still learning. And if there's anything that you feel we did an injustice to in this
Yeah.
episode, or if there's any new information, or if we got something wrong, please
Yeah.
call us out on it. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
want to learn. I
Mhm.
want to know if I misspoke. I want to know if I wasn't being sensitive about something. Like, please send us a DM on Instagram at Do That Well. Send us an email, dothatwellpodcast@gmail.com. This is all about learning, and we want to be held accountable as well. So, with that,
So good. Well said.
we bid you adieu. Until next week.
Bye bye.